All right, so just in case any of you guys were not here with us last time, we are honored to be with the Samurai of Sales, Mitch Harris. Mitch and I have been working together for years, off and on through coaching, direct coaching, through coaching programs, and just kind of being a good friend to lean on and somebody who's gotten me through some rough patches in real estate that we all go through. We all have rough patches, and it's really great when you can be with somebody like a Mitch Harris, like a coach, to rely on, to bounce ideas off of, to come up with different ways to get us to the next level. And that's really what happened with me when I worked with Mitch. It really helped me elevate my own business and brought me to a whole nother level of success. So I really thank you for that, Mitch. And I thank you for taking the time again with us today for your third experience with our group. So, Mitch, you got it from here, bud.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. And welcome to everyone to just follow through and get it done. And it's amazing. Boom. Just like that, we're into February. We were just setting our goals. Everybody was just saying Happy New Year to one another. And then here we are already in the second month of the year. It's truly incredible how quickly time flies. And I am extremely excited about what we're going to be talking about today because this is critical and it's fun. And likewise, when I conduct a webinar or a program like the goal setting workshop that we did a few weeks ago, on some level, I almost consider this a must. I feel compelled to provide a follow-up webinar like this because this is the critical component that makes all the goal setting and the planning worth it. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where your statements can meet your actions. And it always astounds me how many people will actually spend the time to do some goal setting and create some plans, which in and of itself will distinguish them from the overwhelming majority of the population. But how many people will do that and then not really implement and follow through? And Josh and I were talking about how the turnout on this call is slightly less than the goal setting workshop. And I said, listen, buddy, I could have predicted that. That's very often a metaphor for business and a metaphor for life. I want to truly acknowledge those of you who are on this call. You are making a statement to yourself, to me, to Josh, and to the universe that you're committed to doing what it takes to take your plans and put them into action and create the results that you're truly committed to for 2021. So I acknowledge you for that. And in looking at this and considering this, I'd like to begin with a few questions. But I'd first like to preface that some of you on this webinar may have participated in the goal setting webinar that we did a few weeks ago. Some of you may have not. Either way, that's fine. Either way, that's great. You're going to get a lot of value from what we covered today. But I'll be starting off with a few questions from the standpoint of having gone through goal setting or done some of that. And just on that topic, if you haven't done that yet or gone through that webinar as of yet, I definitely recommend you revisit that because that has been recorded. Okay, and Josh, perhaps in the follow-up, you can make that link available to folks as well.
Yeah, I sent that twice, and I can send it when we send this one. We could send part one and part two.
Okay, excellent, great. This is a power pack that can get this year started powerful. So one of the things I always talk about with many of my students and coaching clients on how to be more effective at delivering your point is to ask effective questions, right? Questions have a way of engaging the mind and nothing else does. And I believe in walking my talk. So true to that, I'd like to begin by asking you a few questions, right? And, there is really nothing on the planet like the power of review, of integration, of reinforcing, right? So I'd like to review and check in with you briefly with a few simple but important questions. First is, did you do the goal setting workshop that we conducted a few weeks ago, right? If you have, great. If you haven't, great, right? If you haven't, as I said, I encourage you to do so, but did you put the time aside to participate either live or to listen to the recording we created? And all I want to challenge you with on that is take a look at what may have come up for you around that, if you did or you didn't. If it was easy and effortless and you saw it as a no-brainer, fantastic. If you felt some kind of, as psychologists say, cognitive dissonance, meaning approach avoidance to doing that for whatever reason, just take a look at that. And what might that have been about for you? But did you actually do the goal setting? And if so, have you reviewed and tweaked your goals? Have you considered them? Have you updated them? Have you maybe even updated the wording to have them be more accurate and precise? In other words, are you crystal clear on what you want to accomplish for this year? And if not, a reminder to please do so. And number three, did you in fact write them down as we discussed and put them in a place where you can see them or be reminded of them on a consistent basis? Whether it's an index card, whether it's sticking something up on your desktop or even your bathroom mirror, or having something in Outlook or your iCal where you have reminders popping up to remind you of the most important outcomes. If not, as well, I recommend that you definitely do that because that is pivotal. Next, right? Have you tapped into your why? Right? In our workshop, we spent time focusing on what your drivers are, what's at stake, why you will deal with any kind of challenge or inconvenience or adversity that may pop up on the route to any worthwhile outcome. And just as important as anything, have you created accountability for yourself? Have you reached out to an accountability partner, right? Have you put yourself in a position where you will be held to account by someone who matters for what you're committed to? Now, more often than not, left to their own devices, most people don't. And I'm just calling that what it is. And I'm going to have some resource for that to support you with that. But consider that. And last question is, since our workshop last month, what action have you actually taken? Right? Did you follow through on those 10 action items, one item per goal that we laid out, or other items, right? Where has the rubber met the road for you? And if it hasn't reflected what you'd like it to, what are you going to do moving forward? So Josh, let me just bounce off of you. Would you agree these are some rather important, worthwhile questions?
Definitely. Oh yeah. I'm just going through them right now, but for sure. I'm just making my own notes saying, yeah, I need to update my plan as well.
Yeah. And without any judgment whatsoever, it's amazing how often even top agents, when I review this, will go, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. I woulda, I shoulda, I coulda. So that's the critical power of reminder and review. And another kind of battle cry I like to use when I consider this is an expression you may have heard before. You've probably heard it come out of my mouth already, but it's very simple. The fortune is in the follow through. It is in the follow through that your results manifest. It is in the follow through that you get to walk your talk and live your word and be a stand for what you're committed to in your business and in your life overall. And a story some of you may have heard me mention before, because I do mention it from time to time, but I haven't mentioned it, in our prior broadcast, is just a critical story that I think really brings everything together and truly illustrates what I'm talking about. And I know, Josh, you've heard this before. It's Acres of Diamonds. And this is such a powerful, true story about a peasant farmer years ago in Africa when diamonds were first discovered there. It's considered, common old hat now that diamonds are in Africa. Well, just like we had the California gold rush in this country, years ago when diamonds were first discovered in Africa, people went crazy. They couldn't believe that there were diamonds all over the ground that they could manifest and create wealth with. So there was one peasant farmer who decided to go about staking his claim. He wasn't a rich man. He sold his farm. He pulled what little resources he had. He bought some mining equipment, and he endeavored to mine throughout the continent to look for diamonds. And this man worked like no one. He toiled the earth for years. He needed to support his family. But guess what? 2 years went by, and he had no success. He never found the diamonds he was looking for. More time continued to pass with no success, and unable to support his family. Eventually, the man became despondent, depressed, and committed suicide. He jumped into a river and drowned himself. Now, my first question is, aren't my stories inspiring? Aren't my stories fantastic? Doesn't that just get you excited? Woo! Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. But the point of the story is that's not the end of it. And there's a huge lesson in this. A couple of years after he sold his farm, the new owner of the farm was out on the grounds one day, and they had been doing some excavating for a project they were doing for the land. And lo and behold, the owner found a beautiful shiny object on the ground. He said, "Oh, that's interesting." He went home, he placed it on his mantle as sort of a conversation piece. But this would be kind of neat. And about a week later, he had a guest come over, and the guy nearly had a cardiac. He said, "Do you realize what's sitting on your mantle? That is one of the largest natural diamonds I've ever seen, and it's sitting in your living room." To which the new owner said, "Oh, that's a diamond? Oh, we have those all over the place. I thought it was just a ruby." And it turned out that the farm that the original farmer had sold was literally sitting on the single largest deposit of diamonds in the entire continent of Africa. Profound. It still functions to this day. It's called the Kimberley Diamond Mine. And at one point, they needed over 50,000 workers to mine that mine. The original farmer was literally sitting on top of acres of diamonds, but he did nothing about it. So I'd like you to think about how this relates to your business and what you're up to. Josh, you can just share with me on this, and I'm asking this to the team, but do you have resources? Do you have opportunities right under your nose that you could manifest if you simply take action and follow through on that?
We all do. Oh yeah,
We all do.
we all do.
And I'm not saying this is the easiest of times, and I'm not saying we're out of the COVID dilemma yet. Although I'm hearing stories of the market picking up and listings, offers being made and listings being accepted, and there has been a shift in the market, right? But there are opportunities within your power. But this is the key to follow through, right? This is the key to taking that action and translating opportunity to results and, of course, prosperity. Is that making sense, Josh?
Yes.
Okay. So I see this as reason to get excited, right? This is what really counts. And what I'd like to do is walk you through some specific approaches and tools that you can use to support you in your follow through. Because I'm sure we can all agree that effective follow through is critically important, but it's not always easy. It may be simple on some level, but much like moving a 5,000-pound boulder up a hill at times, it's not necessarily easy. It depends on what's the task at hand and what you have to handle. And look, let's call it what it is. There's a lot to do in this industry. There's a lot on your table. There's a lot you need to deal with. So I'm not saying it's always easy. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it feels effortless, right, Josh? Like you're in the zone and the right words seem to be coming out of your mouth. Prospects seem to be agreeable. They're making time for you. They're following through on their appointments. What a concept, right? But other times it feels like it's pulling teeth, right? Pushing that boulder. So I'm not saying it's always easy, but it is critical. And that's why I want to share some specific tools you can use to be more effective in this area. And towards the very end, I'm going to offer you some very special gifts, right? That are very valuable. And I don't come up with that as an idea. Like, it's just quantitatively valuable gifts that I'm going to offer you, but you need to stay till the end. That's my one request with this. And we're going to rock, and we're going to go through this quickly. So are you ready to rumble? Excellent. So number one, right? One of the absolute largest barriers that so many agents deal with, and you could even say it's part of the human condition, right? And some could call it the P word, but it's moving beyond procrastination. Procrastination. How often has this come up? How often has this been a topic? How often has this been mentioned as something that can hinder agent productivity and keep you from being at your best? And, much like Josh, I'm sure, and others, I've been out there for years, and I've heard different people talk about, eliminating procrastination and stamping it out from your life and really mastering this. And I want to offer a slightly different approach to this, which sometimes catches people a bit off guard at first, but I want you to be open to this. Okay, ready? Stop trying to eliminate procrastination. Stop trying to eliminate procrastination. Now, right now, some of you may have pulled what I call a Scooby-Doo, right? The cartoon character who goes, and yeah, I'll keep it kind of fun, by the way. I'll be a little out of the box at times, but I want to have fun here. But it can really surprise people. What eliminate procrastination? Isn't that a bit counterintuitive? No, I'm not saying to not move beyond procrastination, but I'm saying the idea that so many authors and coaches and speakers share about completely stamping out and eliminating procrastination, in my opinion, is not entirely realistic and could set you up to fail. Because I'm of the belief that you're not a machine, you're a human being. And to one degree or another, every human being is going to procrastinate to some degree at some time. Does that make sense, Josh? No, it's acknowledging your humanness, your humanity, that at times the mind will need buffer time. At times the mind will need time to adjust to something or get caught up to speed, right? So in my approach, one of the things that has had such a drastic impact on so many of my students, Josh included over the years, is what I like to call limit the scoring. Limit the scoring. And that's a sports analogy. And what I'd like you to consider when you think about that is, very often there are certain players in certain sports that are the best in the world, right? They're all stars, they're top scorers. And when opposing teams play them, they don't come with the approach that we are going to keep them from scoring at all. We're going to completely eliminate their scoring. When you would play someone like a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan, or in European soccer, for example, Lionel Messi, or one of our own soccer players back in the day, Mia Hamm, or there's so many different opportunities, so many, like even a Tom Brady, right, or Patrick Mahomes. Like when you're playing these folks, they're going to score. You know that they're going to get results, and you have to give them their due, right? Well, from time to time, I'm just going to level with you. You're going to procrastinate, right? What I recommend is have your approach be limit the scoring on procrastination. In other words, look to limit the scope and the frequency of the procrastination, where instead of it being unconscious and unbridled, where it just occurs spontaneously, you say to yourself, okay, I'm taking a few minutes right now to kind of give myself some space and enjoy something, or I'm not working right now, but instead of that being an hour or an hour and a half where I get lost, surfing the web or jumping on different websites or YouTube videos or sports channels, whatever it may be, I'm going to give myself about 15, 20 minutes, right? I'm going to be clear on what I'm doing, right? But then at this point, I'm going to move on. And you might even want to set a little alarm for yourself on your phone to say, okay, enjoy, time to move on. But another approach that I'd like you to consider is to begin to focus on what I call productive procrastination. Because there's something I want you to consider is all procrastination is not created equal, right? There are different forms of procrastination. There could be, just watching fashion videos or sports videos or news updates, whatever it may be, Sports Center, right? A music video, something totally unrelated to the business. Or you could focus on, listen, I'm not going to step into my core prospecting activity or my core marketing activity right now, but I'm going to do things somewhat related to the business, somewhat around the business. It could even be organizing your personal workspace. And yes, it's a form of procrastination. And I'm always amazed at the bad rap that gets of just getting organized and cleaning up, right? You're not avoiding, you're doing something that helps your mind, right? Maybe it's cleaning out your desktop. Maybe it's eliminating some PDFs that you don't need. Maybe it's doing some editing for some listings or some ads you're putting out, whatever the case may be. I'll give your mind some chewing gum, but let it be healthy chewing gum, right? Focus and think about what would productive procrastination look like, right? And you can even ask yourself that question, right? If you're like, I got a ton of stuff to do today. I don't really feel like making that call. I don't really feel like, getting on the website for that. I need a little bit of time. What could I do that could serve me or be productive? And Josh, buddy, let me just check in. Is that resonating? Right? Maybe make a strategic phone call, something you haven't done that you've been putting off. Ironically, sometimes productive procrastination can be used to do something that you've been procrastinating on. Something else you haven't done for weeks or months that you say, you know what? I'm not really in the zone right now regardless. So let me just get that handled. Right? Think about what productive procrastination could look like. And something I'd like to recommend is at some point after this program, you might want to spend a few minutes just jotting down some examples of what productive procrastination would look like and understand that you're just looking to limit the scoring, not eliminate it.
Hey,
Okay?
Mitch, let me ask you, if I wanted to do something like work on the side on a personal website or on my social media, but that's not my main goal. I mean, that's Could that be considered productive procrastination and doing a little bit that here and there, and then coming back to dealing with my main client who's a big pain, but I got to deal with?
Right. I'd say absolutely. Absolutely. The key is to limit the scoring. So you see where procrastination can really become unhealthy is when it's used as a complete avoidance mechanism, where you're like, you know what, I didn't get to that because I decided to do something else instead, right? Where it's a replacement mechanism. Then you're not doing what you set out to do. But if you're taking 15, 20 minutes or whatever the particular time frame may be to handle a personal item like that that's still business related, I'd say absolutely.
Yeah, Henry
Right.
says like reading an article, The Real Deal, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, stuff like that. That's productive procrastination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what it also does is it kind of takes some of the negative pressure off of yourself. I'm going to talk about moving beyond self-judgment in a moment, which is another big barrier to effective follow through. But it kind of relaxes the vibe you have with yourself, where you're like, okay, I don't need to beat up on myself. I'm taking a little bit of time to do what I want that also serves me. And that I believe that most of us, just about everyone, has this little child inside of them that will rebel if it's too tightly controlled or too tightly disciplined, right? So get your work done, but remember to have fun in the process and remember to allow yourself to slide into it because you're a human being, you're not a machine. But I think that would absolutely be an example of productive procrastination. Okay. So next, and this is critical, developing power habits. Now notice I'm not just saying habits, but I'm saying power habits. And Josh, and by the way, Josh and I don't rehearse any of this beforehand, so it's all ad lib. Josh, in your opinion, what do you think the difference is, or what would you define as a power habit versus just a
I
habit?
mean, a habit's something you're going to do that's, part of your routine, but a power habit's going to something that maybe can help lead to a certain level of success that's going to
Absolutely.
really put you in the right frame of mind to, every day do something that's going to lead to getting more and more deals, more money.
Yes, 100% correct. It's a habit that will serve you and bring you towards what you want. And the other trait of a power habit is it is a habit that you intentionally cultivate. It's a habit that you're intentionally creating. Because are most of our habits conscious creations?
No.
No. Most of our habits just kind of happen, right? Through circumstance and what we're used to or what we've been doing for years or months or whatever the case may be. Power habit is something you intentionally create, you articulate it in advance, and you go about putting it into practice. And once again, I'll be the first to share that it's not always the easiest thing to do. And that brings me to an important component of this, which is what I call the 21-day myth. And I'd really like you to hear this. Now, anyone who's been around, maybe you've heard of Dale Carnegie over the years. He's the one who first came up with this, and a lot of professional development and personal development and self-help books and all that. The kind of company line is it takes 21 days to cultivate a new habit, right? And within 3 weeks, you should have a new habit cultivated. With all due love and respect to all the teachers and authors who have come before me, I want to respectfully say that is nonsense. It's just not correct. It may take about 3 weeks to get you on track with a habit and get you into the process of doing something consistently. But what I have found is so many people just assume that, well, I've been doing it for 3 weeks, so it should be common, it should be second nature now. It should be old hat. So let me ask you the question. With all of the attachments that your subconscious mind has and habits that you may have been, already, disempowering habits that you may have been experiencing for years since childhood, and you're looking to recreate a new habit, do you think that necessarily you're going to completely create a new habit in 3 weeks for something you've been doing for 10 years? It's not necessarily the case, right? Developing a new habit must be supported, it must be enforced, and that's where accountability and having that in your life can come into play. But more than that, it must be given time to truly develop and grow. I know that there are habits, and I'm not saying this needs to be the case with everything, but there are habits in terms of how I think and how I operate, especially around sales and business, that have taken me over a year, in some cases over 2 years to develop, right? Even my entire mindset around being in sales and dealing with the rejection and the commission-based existence and the ups and downs of that. There's an experiential component to that that I believe truly takes more than 21 days. So the time frame I would recommend as a minimum benchmark is 90 days. 3 months is kind of a springboard to move you towards there, towards that outcome and that habit. But it could take you months or even years to truly integrate it on a deep level. And my request is to be patient with yourself on that, right? To understand that process and to realize you're dealing with your subconscious mind, not just a day-to-day decision. Josh, any thoughts or questions on that?
I agree. I'm with you.
Awesome. And listen, this is really important because next time you hear someone say that, well, scientists say, I haven't heard one scientist quoted that it's 21 days to create a new habit. It takes more work than that, but be consistent and stay the course, right? Keep your commitments, right? And have that be something that not only you have for yourself internally, but to give yourself reminders of that, right? The old saying we've heard, and we've all heard it, out of sight, out of mind. Listen, it may seem overly obvious, it may seem simple, but it's amazing how many agents don't do it, right? Place those key goals in a place where you'll see them consistently on your desktop, on your refrigerator, right? Have an Outlook reminder, have an iCal reminder come up once a day, once a week. And you know what? If some folks laugh at you, maybe even your significant other laughs at you and goes, oh, you're doing those goals things, you're doing that business thing. Yeah, because it's what I need. And I will tell you, it's profound how incredible. Just having that reminder will bring you back to center, because it's safe to say that you're busy and you're doing stuff throughout the day. And your mind may not always be locked in on your core outcomes or commitments. So put it in sight. Now, the next suggestion I have could be a true game changer. I mean, all of this could, but in terms of how you think and how you process the world, this could truly be a game changer. And I say that because it was for me. And let me give some context to this. When you think about setting goals and having plans and taking actions to make those a reality, right? And this whole topic of follow through, that will very often take us to other topics like discipline, commitment, willpower. And I think that one of the misconceptions that many people have of someone who follows through and is a real badass and gets their stuff handled and all of that, I think one of the misconceptions is that they're just powerful people who consistently hit their mark. They're completely driven. They're on point. Nothing's getting in their way. They're one of the winners, and they're going to be the one who gets clear and takes action consistently. And you know what? I guess there are some people like that in the world, and that's a certain percentage of the population. People who seem to be unscathed by life, people who seem to just stay crystal clear over the long term for what's important, what they have to do. And God bless them. I don't know about you, but I always endeavor to continually to be more and more one of those kinds of people. I think I am to a degree. But let me tell you the reality of keeping your commitments and your discipline and following through, right? And let me form that in a question, if you will. Is it safe from time to assume from time to time you're going to be knocked off kilter?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Is it safe to assume from time to time you may let yourself down? You may drop the ball. You may screw up. My friend, if you're a human being, there is a good, very good possibility, no matter how driven you are, no matter how committed you are, how important to you something may be, from time to time, you may drop that ball. And I want you to know that that's something that often distinguishes some of the most successful people on this planet. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to coach and work alongside some of the top performers in the world in various industries, right? People who are making tremendous amounts of money and have achieved incredible accolades. And I've seen that to be a characteristic across the board. So there's one suggestion I want to offer that could really make a pivotal difference when this occurs. And please be open to this, right? It's the idea that I call being willing to change your mind about changing your mind. Change your mind about changing your mind. And here's what I mean by this. Let's say you have a certain commitment. It could be a discipline, it could be an activity, mark, right? It could be something around your diet. It could be something around your block time, calling, prospecting, whatever the case may be. And you're clear that that's a goal that you have, right? But then what will happen? You will sometimes hit that wall. Your blockers, your barriers will come up. You could sometimes blame the outside environment, right? You could blame other factors, but you know what I'm talking about. That part of you inside of you that struggles, at times that wants to quit, or the self-rationalization begins, right? Well, I know I said I was going to do that, but, and it's incredible how slick the mind can become to rationalize doing that which you said you would not do, or likewise not doing that which you said you would do. And we've all had that experience from time to time where we feel ourselves slipping out of commitments. But here's what I want to offer you, and a really powerful tool is in that moment. Let's say you've made a commitment and you've said you're going to do something, and then you changed your mind and you said, you know what, I know I was going to do it, but I said I wasn't going to. Give yourself another moment. Be willing to be with it just a little longer. And even after you've agreed with yourself that you're going to give in and not do it, allow your mind to change itself again. So in other words, you can say to yourself, you know what? I said I was going to do that 3-mile run, but it's not going to happen today. You know what though? Let me just do it anyway. Even though I said I wasn't going to do it, let me do it anyway. No, I know I said I was going to put time aside for, handling some marketing, but I changed my mind. I'm not going to do it. You know what? Let me just do it anyway. Even though I said I wasn't going to do it, let me just do it anyway. Folks, some of the greatest examples of discipline and willpower and follow through have occurred after someone has already given in and told themselves they wouldn't do it. I want you to be open to that. It's after you've given yourself the permission to not follow through on what you said you were going to, that's very often where the follow through can occur. Now, I know this might sound a bit counterintuitive, and it may take a moment to get your mind around this, but we're talking about being in the trenches on really living your word and following through. Be open to changing your mind about follow through after you've already changed your mind. Now, Josh, I know this can get a little heady for some people, so I just want to check in with you and ask, is this clear? Is this making sense? And any questions about this?
It's a little different, a little strange, changing your mind about changing your mind, but I see where you're coming from. So yeah, I got it.
Excellent. Once you've already given in, decide not to give in. And look what shows up for you around that.
Okay.
Next, and this is vital, accountability. Now notice how I term this. Create accountability. All right, so it's not just, well, let me be accountable and I'll just assume it shows up. Go out of your way to make that a reality in your life. Seek out those people who are operating at a level where you can literally manufacture accountability in your life. Because I want you to know that there has been there's been a deadly virus going around these days, just a fatal virus that's been affecting the careers of so many agents. And it's not COVID. It is not COVID. The virus I'm talking about is called the I can do it all on my own virus, right? I don't need help. That I can do it as a lone warrior, right? That's one way of looking at it. But if you could be more effective by getting help and support from others, wouldn't that serve you? Right? So literally seek it out. And it takes energy. You need to be proactive about it. Look to find high-powered accountability partners who can support you, right? But likewise, who you can support. And this is very important because what this does is this isn't just a self-serving practice, right? This puts you in a scenario where you now need to call out other people. You need to be willing to hold other people to account, right? If you have an accountability partner and they're not living their word, and you seeing that with all, excuse the French, they're full of shit with what they say they're going to do, hold them to account, challenge them. You'll be amazed how quickly people will be more than happy to reciprocate and challenge you and see what you're up to. So at least put that into a conversation, right? So one of my questions for this is, are you in that kind of dialogue right now? Do you have someone in your life who is challenging you, holding you to account? And I don't just mean someone like Josh or a managing director or a sales manager. That's fine. But you do the numbers. That's one person with a team of who knows how many. I mean someone directly, right, in your wheelhouse who will hold you to account, who will challenge you. And there's something I'd like you to consider. I'd like you to think about some folks like Michael Jordan, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Muhammad Ali, Richard Branson, Barbara Corcoran, Mark Zuckerberg, Bono, Tony Robbins, Mother Teresa, and more. Aside from being some of the most successful, wealthiest, or famous people on the world, having had the biggest impact on the planet, what's one thing all of these folks have in common? Well, the one true statement is that they have all had mentors, coaches, and advisors who have helped them, who have supported them to be better, to be more effective. They didn't do it on their own. They got help. So where are you getting help right now? Who is supporting you in your endeavor? So one of the things I'd like to suggest, right, whatever that may look like, is work with a coach. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be me, right? Whatever that looks like, though, have someone who you know will call bullshit, who will support you, who will hold you to account, right? Someone who will create that accountability for you in your life. But likewise, someone who will provide you with guidance and support to give you that brainstorming, that soundboarding that you may need, right, in that critical moment to receive mentorship, to receive learning and cultivation throughout the process. You know, it's amazing that through most of our lives, you know, we usually have coaches and mentors for most of the things we're doing, whether it's school, whether it's sports, even in religion, right? We all have someone to teach and mentor us. But then we get out into the world as an entrepreneur, and make no mistake, that's what you are. You're running your own business, and we don't have coaches and we don't have people to help us. So whatever that may look like, I want to, you know, really, really recommend and have you be aware of that. All right. And, you know, underlying all of this, as far as our relationship with ourselves and what this may look like, is persisting in the face of self-judgment. Self-judgment, right? Our own punisher, if you will, right? That person inside of us that is constantly judging and criticizing and making wrong. And this is where I find very often a lack of follow through can take someone out of the game. Meaning you have commitment, you do not honor your commitment to yourself, you don't live your word to yourself. And then what happens? All kinds of self-condemnation, all kinds of self-deprecation. Why didn't I do that? What the hell's my problem? Am I an idiot? Am I a weakling? What was I thinking? That's something we very often get from our childhood or upbringing. All right, so I'd just like you to consider that, right? Most of us have gone through this at one point or another. You know, I personally consider myself to be a recovering perfectionist. Right? I hold myself to a very high standard, but I want you to think about this frame of perfectionism. Right? I prefer to perfectionism as a dysfunctional parent. But think about that, right? A parent that isn't really always looking out for their kids, that might yell at their children or beat on them or, you know, do things that don't serve them. Perfectionism can do that. Many people think, well, I'm a perfectionist, so I have very high standards, right? I call perfectionism imperfectionism because what you're really doing is just focus on everything you're doing wrong. Now, hold yourself to a high standard, do your best to follow through and take the action necessary. But if you're not perfect, if from time to time you do drop the ball, I want to offer that it will serve you to understand that and embrace that and not be mired in a state of ongoing guilt. Right? I call guilt the emotional shackle. It hinders you, right? It prevents you from being at your best. It keeps you small. If you make a mistake, if there's something you don't execute on, acknowledge it, take the lesson that you can learn from it and move on. Guilt is not serving you. Guilt does not mean high standards. Let me ask you, is there anyone you know in your life who you're not particularly impressed with, who maybe doesn't create or you know, perform at the level that impresses you, but they usually walk around in a state of guilt? That's who they are. And likewise, someone who you may be super impressed with, who creates fantastic results, right? Who you think is amazing, but they're not always beating up on themselves. If they drop a ball, if they don't do something properly, if they're not totally on point, they got it. They move on. They let it roll off. Guilt is not a noble emotion, and it's not going to support your follow through. I know that early on in my career, there were stages where I would drop a ball or make a mistake or not live my word to myself, and I would take myself out of the game for like a week, even longer. I'd be like, what the hell is my problem? Deep self-judgment. And I want you to consider, the process of self-forgiveness. I could share a bunch of different tools and time management skills and procrastination tools, and this is all great. When you really get to the core of how you're living and how you're functioning as a human being, I want you to consider this process in being in a state of ongoing self-forgiveness. Okay, I messed up, I got it. All right, I'm not going to dwell. What can I learn and move on? And it reminds me of a story that I heard years ago that really stuck with me. And it was a story of two monks who were traveling down a path. And one of the monks had taken a vow of total reclusivity, right? Of celibacy and reclusivity, where he had committed to not talk to another human or even touch another human, right? And they had come across a river. And in front of that river, there was a young woman, and she was crying. And the monk who was able to speak asked her, he said, young woman, what's wrong? What's the problem? She said, well, I need to cross this river and I need to get to the other side. And I have medicine that my family very gravely needs, or my mother's going to die. And the monk who was speaking was just a child. He wasn't strong enough to carry the woman across the river. Well, the second monk who had taken the vow was a grown up, picked her up, carried her across the river, broke his vow to save this woman's mother's life. And then they continued along the path. The second monk, the child, was flabbergasted. He couldn't believe what had happened. He could not get it out of his mind. And about 2 miles down the road, maybe a couple of hours later, he looked at the monk and he said, Master, I just have to ask, I don't understand. Why did you pick that woman up? It broke your vow, right? You did not honor your vow. To which the second monk said, oh, actually, regarding her, I put her down at the end of the lake. I've already put her down. You're still carrying her with us. She's already been put down. He moved on. He allowed it to occur. He forgave himself and he moved on. So I want you to consider forgiveness. And Josh, just as you hear this, and I'm not looking for anything in particular, but this is meaningful. So any thoughts that occur as you hear this?
It's a pretty heavy story, but I see both sides. You can see the kid; he doesn't really get it, but yeah, you have to just let go and move on. That's actually one of the themes from my daughter's elementary school when she was in elementary school last year. Let go and move on, and that's kind of the self-forgiveness. It kind of goes with the same theme. Just gotta move forward. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
harp on it.
Staying mired in guilt or self-judgment is not serving you. And that in and of itself does not reflect high standards. That reflects a desire to just beat on yourself, and you don't need to. So I'd like to do just a quick exercise. I'd like you to think about the year that's passed, about what's occurred in the year so far. Anything that you may have felt disappointed about, or anything that you may be judging yourself about, or others for that matter, that you find is hindering you and keeping you from being at your best, or keeping you from time to time in a state of guilt or self-judgment. Whatever that is, I just want you to get present to that for a moment. And if you will, and I ask that you indulge me on this, is wherever you are, please sit up straight in your chair. Just sit up straight. And just for a few moments, please just close your eyes. Just close your eyes. If you're driving, of course, that may be difficult. But other than that, please close your eyes. And please straighten your spine out. Lift your chest up just a little bit to open up your chest cavity. And at the same time, allow your shoulders to come down a bit. Just observe your breathing. Just observe your breath. Don't look to control it. Don't judge. If your breath is shallow, let it be shallow. If it's deep, allow it to be deep. Just notice the range of your breath. And as you do that, please take in a deep breath. Hold it for a moment and let it go. And as you're breathing out, please extend the breath out as much as you can. Come back to your natural breath. Take a deep breath in. Hold it for a moment and let it go. Just notice your mind get a little sharper as you do that. And whatever you may be considering or thinking about, which you are holding on to, judgment, guilt, resentment toward yourself or someone else, please just say to yourself in a very gentle way, I let you go. I am letting go of you. Just let it go. And likewise, please just say to yourself, I forgive you. I forgive you. You could be saying that to yourself. You could be saying that to someone else. You could be saying that to the year of 2020. I forgive you. And understand that you have a clean slate to work with moving forward. And you may need to spend some more time on this after this program. That's okay. And when you're ready, please open your eyes back up. And just realize you have a clean slate, a fresh page to work with moving forward in 2021. Yes, the time is moving quickly and there's a lot to do, but you don't need to be shackled by anything that has occurred up to this point. Let it go. And I want you to think about what's possible and what you can create in the coming year. Because when you think about it, there's so much to look forward to. There's so much to create. And look what the market's doing now. I mean, this is exciting. And I will tell you from experience, I know Josh has been through this. I'm sure many of the agents on this call have been through this as well. But one of the most exciting processes, or one of the most exciting periods to be a part of, is when a market rebounds. When a market comes back from some kind of dormancy or some kind of negative psychology, the movement back up can be so exciting. Well, all of a sudden, people start taking your calls more often. People start showing up for appointments more often. People start making offers. You're like, boom, boom, boom. That's happening with a lot of my clients right now, a lot of my agent clients. Like that listing I've had, that client I've been working on for 6 months, they just made an offer. This is an exciting time. So what are you going to do to maximize this and make the most of this year? So in that endeavor, if you will, to that effect, I want to, in my own small way, offer a resource that could support you with this. And it's a gift, pure and simple. It's a gift. And to call it what it is, it's a very rare opportunity. And I mean that because as Josh has mentioned, and you may already know, I've been doing this work for close to 2 decades. It's amazing to say that. I've had the good fortune of, first of all, having people like Josh and Kevin Kurland when I worked with him, and other people that I've worked with over the years to say the things they say about me, and it's very humbling. But I've had the opportunity to do that. I've traveled all over the country and as far as Hong Kong as a coach and a consultant, and have worked with people at a very high level. And I'm very selective. The reason I mention that, and I'm not saying that we all have our story, right? But I'm saying that because I'm usually very selective with who I will give my time to one-on-one. Many programs I do are large scalable programs, which is great. But to meet with me one-on-one, I've put up certain, gatekeepers in that regard for good reason, because it's my time, right? It's extremely valuable, as is yours. But I say that because I'd like to offer you for a limited time a customized one-on-one coaching session with yours truly. Literally, to be specific, a 1-hour customized business coaching session for you as far as whatever will best support you, right? Whatever is most pressing for you. If it's your selling skills, we'll work on that. If it's your time management, if it's your mindset, if it's, some of what we discussed of just creating a clearing and engaging in self-forgiveness, whatever the case may be, it will be an hour dedicated to your success and your growth as an agent and as a human being. And at the same time, we'll get to know one another. You'll get to learn a bit more about me and my approach and what I'm up to. And I do this because I want to provide tremendous value to you, right? I want to do whatever I can to support you in your mission. And this also reflects my relationship with Josh and the fact that we've known one another for years. I don't often offer this, but we'll get to know one another. You'll get to learn about what I bring to the table and how I can be of support to you. It's a huge win-win. Now, when I work with coaching clients, I never charge by the hour, right? I normally offer programs. So there's no like an hourly rate per se, but if I was going to kind of gauge this and say, what does that maybe translate to with some of the work I do? That's a $500 value, right? For a session like that, but I'm offering this for absolutely free, right? To make this a no-brainer and to support you and what you're up to. And don't worry, there's not going to be some hard sell about any program. I will tell you what I'm up to and you get to learn more about my platform, but you're not going to be hard sold into doing something that won't serve you. But this will be a very valuable hour for you.
That's
right?
amazing, Mitch. Thank you for doing that for this crew. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It certainly is. Now, I have a few requests with that, right? And it's a fact. The first is if it's something you want to take advantage of, I'm looking for serious agents only. And this is what I mean by that. I'm looking for someone who's being serious about the business, who will really use this and that there's purpose to it. Not just because it's an intellectual exercise and you're thinking may be kind of interesting, but someone who's serious about the business. So to that effect, right, I'm going to limit this to 10 people, right, to 10 agents, right? So you need to be one of the first 10 because it makes the statement. It makes a statement that you're serious about this, right? And because there are only so many hours in a day and my time is limited, right? But this is for serious agents. So if it's something you'd like to do, and all that would be required is scheduling the appointment, I will send you a follow-up, and then I will have a basic one-page pre-coaching questionnaire that's completely confidential that I want you to fill in and send to me before the session so we can hit the ground running. And my request is if we do schedule that time, that you lock it, you etch it into stone, that other than an unexpected emergency, knock on wood, or that call coming in with an offer being accepted or a deal closing, short of that you honor that time. And Josh, let me just ask, is that fair? Is that request fair? What I'm
More
asking?
than fair. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. I appreciate it. So if you'd like to register for that, right, to do it, it's very simple, right? I have a Calendly link, and I'll kind of spell this out for anyone who may be listening but not watching. And I'm sure you've heard of Calendly by now. It's pretty boss. You just go to a page and there's a series of options for times, and you choose one. That it's the link for that is called Calendly. So it's CALENDLY, calendly.com/samurai of sales. And samurai is SAMURAI. So calendly.com/samurai of sales/coaching session. All right, straight up. And if you're on your computer, you can do that now, as you see Josh doing. If you want to take a photo of that to register as soon as possible, but there's 10 slots available, and do that as soon as you can if you find that interesting or worthwhile. And if you want to reach out and contact me directly on that, I think Calendly is the best option. But if you want to, you send me an email or send me a text message and just say, listen, Mitch, put me down for the session, and we'll make that happen. That's the best way I can support you with what you're up to. And just to kind of review our journey to this point, right? Not only have we gone through a comprehensive, right, specific goal-setting workshop where I got you crystal clear on what you want to achieve, what you want to accomplish in the following year, and what's most important to you, right? With action items and ways to write it down and capture it, right? But in addition, I provided another webinar for your follow-through to support you in really taking action and making that a reality, maybe reminding you to do some things you haven't done yet, And all this has been provided as a courtesy because of my relationship with Josh and Oxford Inspire. And in addition, I'm now offering you my time one-on-one, right? Which is perhaps the most valuable resource I can offer. So I'm doing everything within my power to support you in getting to that next level and making 2021 an extremely powerful year and a year to remember. So Josh, I now want to hand it over to you, first in terms of any questions or comments you may have, but I also want to open up the call to our participants for any questions you may have. And what I would ask is if there's a question you have or a comment or anything you want to share, but something I can support you with, just raise your hand on the dashboard and Josh can unmute you, or you can simply type in a question, whatever best serves you. But I do want to open up the floor for some Q&A.
Okay, I'm just mentioning to a couple of people to take advantage of this great opportunity. This is awesome.
Excellent.
So if anyone has any questions, I can unmute you. Okay, great. Some people I see, they're already texting you right now. That's great. Sergio wants you to repeat what you were saying about the changing your mind.
Yep.
Change
Absolutely.
your mind about changing your mind.
Exactly. Let me go back to that slide for a second. Be willing to change your mind about changing your mind. And there is a subtle power to this, to the point that it's actually profound. Because there's also a level of humility and a level of self-awareness with this, where it's the question of how do I respond when I've given in? How do I respond when I haven't hit my mark? When I did not follow through? I did not keep my word. I did not walk my talk. Well, you know what? The day's not over. Maybe you do it anyway. I will tell you some of the greatest expressions of follow through and willpower and self-discipline I've ever exhibited in my life were after I already agreed to giving up on a commitment. I said, you know what? Let me do it anyway, just because why not? Right? And it's amazing what can open up in that space. We have this image that follow through and effectively hitting your mark is always just a Navy SEAL who just gets it done. And they're in the zone all the time. And I said I was going to do it, so I did it. That's great. But the human mind can get so slick with us. And this is the opportunity to, once you've decided not to do what you said you would do it anyway. And then what can occur is once you step through that portal of doing it anyway, your subconscious mind begins to realize, oh, I can do this. Oh, I am doing this. This is actually who I am. Because likewise, if you don't follow through on something, but you have a great conversation as to why you didn't follow through, on some level, your subconscious is still acknowledging, you know what, you didn't follow through. You didn't do it. So when you take the action on some level, you're actually showing to yourself, this is really who I am. All the mind trash aside, all the conflict and the limiting beliefs aside, this is what I do. It may take me a while. There may be a bit of a circuitous route to it, but you know what? I hit my freaking mark. I followed through. And then over time, you can develop an identity in that space.
I brought Sergio in just to see if he has any follow-up questions on that. I think, Sergio, can you speak? Sergio? I thought I promoted him to panelist, but maybe I didn't.
Okay. Well, for whatever reason the audio isn't working, feel free to chat any questions you have. Okay. And that's all good. It's your chance.
Anyone else have any questions about any of the information that we covered? Anyone else have a hand up? Let's see. Okay. Nika, let's see. Nika, can you speak?
See Sergio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. And thank you, Mitch, for the webinar. I just have a question. I did not do my due diligence before the webinar, and I wanted to ask a little bit of your background, or is this what you actively doing is coaching, or you're an agent yourself or a broker?
Right.
And
so there is
your coaching, is it more about because the session today was more about the mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was gonna ask if your coaching includes also for me personally, I feel like I need a mentor, but I need a mentor who knows the business and shows me because I'm getting stuck on my action plan, actually, not so much as a mindset. Like I procrastinate because I don't really know what to do sometimes, some days,
Right.
and so I just wanted to just know about more of your background and what kind
Sure.
of coaching you provide.
Sure. No, that's a great question, a very understandable question. And the simple answer is yes, I do a lot of specific sales focused and action item and skills based coaching and training. And what we're discussing here is focused specifically on real estate and being an agent in the market. And, Josh and I, for example, worked together for years. And at this point, I would say, if I'm going to give a guesstimate, over the years, I've worked with over 50,000 agents from different firms in different parts of the country. I'm very clear that the New York City market is very specific. I am from New York, all right, so I'm very specific on how this market functions and operates. As I mentioned, I worked with Kevin. I've worked with many agents over the years, and I fully understand the industry, whether it's talking to comps or expireds or FISBOs, or putting together an exclusive, putting together a listing presentation, or placing your ads, whatever the particulars. Very fluid in the industry. So if you're talking about the hard skills and being kind of in the grassroots, the trenches as an agent, that's absolutely what we can focus on. And ultimately, Nika, it's about what serves you. I'm doing this for decades. And also, to answer the other question, yes, I am specifically and exclusively a business coach and consultant. And this is what I've been doing for close to 2 decades. And ultimately, I'm like an encyclopedia. You say, listen, I want to work on my prospecting skills today. Let's work on your prospecting skills. I want to work on my time management. One of the prior webinars was focused on referrals and effective networking and growing your sphere of influence. We can focus on that. It will be whatever best serves you and helps you to move forward in your business.
And Nika, when Mitch says that he's worked with 50,000 agents, it's not all individual. Mitch also has done many group training programs. He did a group with Spire for many years, where we had a coaching program. We would meet with Mitch every week, and he would come to our office. We'd sit for 90 minutes around the conference table, and we would go over a different topic each week. And that was a really fantastic program. I've also done mastermind programs with Mitch, where it's not just real estate people, but real estate people as well as other people. So it's he's great. He does an amazing job, and he could really curtail his focus on the person who he's working with, because he is super knowledgeable when it comes to New York City real estate. He's very New York City real estate centric, and he knows what it takes to be a great New York City real estate agent.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
And also, I'm glad you clarified that. Yes, I haven't worked with 50,000 people one-on-one individually. That would have been quite the marathon, but in different capacities.
Hello?
Yeah, hey, Sergio.
Hello, Josh. Just want to let you know I can speak now.
Yeah.
Set the dial in. But
Okay. Did you have any further follow-up, Sergio, on the mindset, changing your mind about changing your mind, or something different?
I like the saying. I think it's very useful. I'm going to definitely implement that. Change your mind about changing your mind. I already signed up for the 1-hour coaching session. I guess my biggest thing is basically just information. I just want to find the information that I need to move forward and just get to the level of sales that I want to. But everything else you said was very, very useful, and I plan on implementing all the other things as well that he said today, which will help me out much. But if I were to pinpoint the root of my problem, I would just say it's just an information program and also a coaching program. A problem, I would say. Yeah, I definitely need a mentor and a coach.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to speaking. That's great. And one of the things I want to clarify for everyone listening, I know I've spoken to it briefly. The last 2 webinars we've done have been about creating structure for yourself and the mindset of follow through, because those are critical and so much will come from that. But if you're thinking about boots on the ground, right, in the trenches, if you will, hard skills, what to say it, how to craft a presentation, how to network, how to refer, how to, establish yourself as a primary go-to agent. When dealing with, as I said, FISBOs, expired, whatever the case may be, that's all within my wheelhouse and all things that I've been doing for years. And one of the reasons that Josh saw the explosion he did and we began to work together. So that's all covered, but that just has not been the focus of what we've been up to as of late. Would you say changing your mind is the same as, yes. Let me read the question because they just hit the nail right on the head. Would you say changing your mind is the same as trusting your original instinct? As in, I forgot why I was going to do something, so now I will just do it, and maybe the reason will become apparent. Henry, you could not have nailed it any more on the head than the way you just said that. And that's a very good way to articulate that, because that's what the mind will do to us. The mind has been called the great trickster, right? Where when we set a goal or lay out a plan, we're so crystal clear. And we realize why we're doing that and what's at stake. But then what happens? Over time, when it comes time to implement and put into action, the mind can come up with all kinds of slick reasons or rationalizations or why you shouldn't do it. And very often the mind will not translate that as weakness. Very often the mind will translate that as, no, this is really the better thing to do. To not live my word, to not follow through, there's good reason because of A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. And what I want to remind everyone is stay the course on what your original instinct told you. And something I'd mentioned when I spoke about time management, and this may or may not have come up in the last webinar, but this is a great distinction, is to create what I call acceptable exceptions. Acceptable exceptions before the fact. So for example, let's say you have a commitment, right, that you want to put into place, or you've blocked out some time for something, whatever that commitment may look like. And the mind starts to get slick. And just as Henry says, right, to forget the original instinct of why you created that in the first place, you just say to yourself, with the exception of A and B that I've laid out ahead of time, right, those are the acceptable exceptions. If I get a call in from a potential buyer making an offer, yeah, I'm going to take the call, right? Or, whatever the case, whatever the particular may be. Other than that, nothing is going to sidetrack you from following through on your commitment and taking that action. Remembering, trusting the original instinct, and something you can say to yourself in that moment of truth, because that's really what it is. It's a moment of truth, of your follow through, saying to yourself, and I say this to myself all the time, you know what? I can always reevaluate. I can always reassess after the fact and decide if it was the right thing to do or not. But let me just follow through on what I said I was going to do. Let me just do it. Right? And that's when you can change your mind again and say, you know what? I said I was going to do it, but let me just do it. And they say that, the definition of commitment is how you operate around an action after the emotion that was present when you made that commitment passes. So Henry, that's spot on. And by the way, I'm going to use that. I'm letting you know right now. All right, because it's a great way to describe that.
And Nika, did you have anything else or are you good?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, Mitch, I think we're good.
Excellent. Josh, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you to all. And
Fantastic.
Hope to see you soon. Have a great day.
All right, thanks everybody. Next week, if you join us for the huddle, Travis will be running the huddle. I will be away. I will see if I can log in while I'm away, but if not, Travis will be here and he will be logging in for the huddle. All right, guys, thanks. Have a great